Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake's Super Bowl performance was one for the history books, unfortunately for the wrong reasons. During their halftime performance, Janet was supposed to have a super cool costume reveal. Justin Timberlake was supposed to rip off a piece of her shirt to reveal like a bralette thing. However, he ripped off everything, and Jackson was exposed to thousands of fans in the stadium and millions watching at home. This is such a nightmare scenario, but what made it worse was the after. While Janet Jackson later went on to tell the public what was supposed to happen, that her goal wasn't to expose herself to all of America, lots of people were skeptical. Her music was blacklisted from radio stations, her career took a major hit, and has never fully recovered. Which sucks, because Janet Jackson is super talented and now has to deal with all that while dealing with the fact that millions saw her in that vulnerable state. She told USA Today that the situation was truly embarrassing. But what about the other half of it all? The man who pulled off the fabric, Justin Timberlake? He was fine. Nothing happened to his music on the radio, and his career is still going relatively strong. The general public is still divided about whether or not this whole thing was planned. Let me know in the comments what you think. The ceremonial first pitch in baseball has been around forever. It's a time for celebrities and other public figures to show off their hidden sports skills, or lack thereof. 50 Cent is a great rapper, but he did very much miss the mark during the 2014 Mets-Pirates game. His throw is probably like 2 meters 6 feet to the left of home plate. He nearly hits a camera guy. I honestly can't even fault him because I know I would be worse. I will not be throwing stones from a glass house today. The video is just funny though. It's kind of a sweet moment too. It sure did make everybody smile. The pitch has reached baseball card status. That is right, you too can hold a piece of embarrassing celeb history right in your hand. The 50 Cent pitch baseball card was released in February of 2015. Luckily, 50 Cent's pitching skills have no effect on his ability to make good music. Debby Ryan, in her Disney Channel days, truly was the gift that kept on giving. We have the infamous ear tuck from Radio Rebel, but specifically the interview with Shine On Media posted to their YouTube on October 16th, 2014. I love this interview. Debby told Teen Vogue after that she wants to be the shade of iconic that is Grace Kelly and Audrey Hepburn, and I fear she is. I have the Shine On Media interview basically memorized. Is it cringe? Is it embarrassing? Yes and yes, but it's also incredibly pop culturally significant. One line from this went incredibly viral. Ryan said, "I went into the Disney Channel building and I sat down with the president of Disney Channel and said, I want to make history." And that's what this is. What was she talking about? Her character's wedding on the Disney Channel show Jessie, and it was history. Even though that line was what went viral, that's not even the wildest part of the interview. They cover being a T-Rex and Debbie's talent of throwing things and catching them in her mouth. Really, you can't guess what's happening next, and I love it. The video of Jerry Seinfeld refusing to hug Kesha makes its rounds on social media like once a year, and without fail I cringe. It's just pain. You know, you're not entitled to anyone no matter who you are, how big of a fan you are, but to get rejected on a red carpet while the person you look up to is doing an interview and then after them saying they don't know who you are, that is brutal, dude. It's a hard watch. Kesha tries 3 times for a hug and nope. The incident happened on the night of laughter and song Red Carpet in 2017. Seinfeld did go on to explain his side of the story, saying, "I was right in the middle of an interview, it was a little off, and I don't hug a total stranger. I have to meet someone, say hello, I got to start somewhere." In 2018, an unlikely individual got revenge for Kesha. Cardi B. Cardi B was on Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis, and Seinfeld was there as well. As Cardi exits the interview, she hugs Zach, but totally ignores Seinfeld, to which Seinfeld responds, "That was the opposite of what happened with Kesha." Apparently, Kesha and Jerry Seinfeld have met up again and laughed about the moment together, but I'm not sure if a hug has happened yet. Justin Bieber was 18 years old when he threw up in front of thousands of people. I don't know if y'all have ever thrown up, but that's personal. You don't want to be doing that in front of thousands of adoring fans. It happened during Justin's Believe tour in 2012 on the first night. The first incident was during Justin's song Out of Town Girl, where it happened right on the stage. You can see the tour dancers trying to avoid the spot. The second time he did run off stage during Beauty and the Beat. Apparently, the tummy trembles were a result of drinking too much milk before the show. The dairy industry was stressing from this bad publicity. I'm kidding, of course. After Beauty and the Beat, Justin was fine. Nothing else happened, thank goodness. He posted a picture to Instagram later in the night of him resting up in bed to get ready for the next show. The rest of the tour was a hit. It made over $40 million, and there was a lack of illness the rest of the way through. Madonna falling during the 2015 Brit Awards was equally as embarrassing as it was just scary. I remember literally gasping while I watched the video. She gets yanked. Madonna was performing Living for Love and was wearing this beautiful long cape attached to her outfit. During the performance, the cape is supposed to be dramatically ripped off by her backup dancers. Unfortunately, something went wrong, and when that cape was yanked, so was Madonna. It was right at the start of the performance too. It's Madonna. She's a professional, and she still gets up, she gives a stellar performance, but she was pulled down some stairs, and I can't even imagine being the person that pulled Madonna down the stairs. How did they keep going? Apparently, everything went so wrong because there were changes made to her cape and the choreo. She explained her side of the story on the Jonathan Ross show, saying the situation was a horrible nightmare and a horror show for the audience and her. She did receive a medical check-in and thankfully was okay. The 2013 Oscars were iconic for one reason, and that was the Jennifer Lawrence stair trip. 22-year-old Lawrence had just won the Oscar for Best Actress. She's wearing this beautiful long gown, which is her undoing because she trips and falls on her way up the stairs. But it's Jennifer Lawrence, so she plays it off so well, works it into her speech. She gets a standing ovation, and when she's finally up to the podium, she addresses the crowd saying, "You guys are just standing up because you feel bad that I fell, and that's really embarrassing." The crowd loves her, and though it was embarrassing, now it's part of the Lawrence charm to be a little bit clumsy. It's why we love her. She's human just like us. And honestly, if you look at pictures of the fall, she still looks great. Kanye stealing the mic from Taylor Swift at the 2009 VMAs just gets worse the longer you think about it. I remember first hearing about this and thinking that maybe Kanye was the presenter or something, but no. He literally was in the audience and got up because God told him to. He revealed that little piece of info in an interview with Nick Cannon 3 years ago. But in 2009, basically Kanye gets a direct call from God to get up on that stage. He grabs the mic from a 19-year-old Taylor Swift and says, "I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time." When he said Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time, he wasn't wrong, but this award was not Video of the Year. This was Best Video by a female artist. Later in the night, Beyonce won Video of the Year. So Kanye did all that for nothing, and poor Taylor had to stand up on that stage and have her moment stolen. Beyonce is a class act, and later, when accepting the award for Video of the Year, she called Taylor back on stage to have her moment. This kind gesture was the beginning of a beautiful, long friendship. The Oscars create memorable moments. See the Jennifer Fall of 2013. But probably the most memorable Oscars moment possibly ever has gotta be the Will Smith Chris Rock slap heard around the world. I remember where I was. It was 2022 and Chris Rock is doing his little bit before announcing the Best Documentary Feature Award, and he makes a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head. Jada has alopecia, a disease that causes hair loss, so the joke was in poor taste. Will Smith decided the best way to handle the situation was to walk right up on the stage and slap Chris Rock across the face, then scream at him from the audience. The entire thing was so wild, no one knew if it was real or not, and when it was confirmed to have not been scripted, it was all anybody talked about for the next few weeks. Will Smith is now banned from attending the Oscars for 10 years, and his career has taken a pretty substantial hit since that show. Even a year later, we're still getting new info about the incident. Ahead of the memoir release, Jada told People that her and Will were separated for 6 years before the slap, and that just makes it all a little bit worse somehow. For a mood switch before the end here, Fergie singing the national anthem at the 2018 NBA All-Star Basketball game is one of my favorite videos on the internet. I am of course Canadian, so I have such a vague idea of what the American anthem is, but when I sing it, I'm singing it like her. We know that Fergie is talented, but what happened, right? She was so into it, and if you look at the players' faces, they're all trying not to laugh so hard, it's painful. The Fergie edition of the anthem was so bad, she had to put out a statement saying, "I'm a risk taker artistically, but clearly this rendition didn't strike the intended tone. I love this country and honestly tried my best." I do want to know what the intended tone was, and I want to see soundcheck. This moment was caught in literal 4K, but it is now immortalized in a children's book too. That's real success success right there. The book is called The Ferg American National Anthem, A Civic Story. It was released November of 2021, and it's highly encouraged that the reader listen to Fergie's anthem while reading. I love the video every time it's on my For You page. Trust, I am singing along, and the let's play some basketball at the end is just such a nice touch. The Grammys had a massive slip up last night, accidentally releasing the wrong name on their X page for the recipient of the Best Rap Song Award. They announced that Barbie World from Barbie the Album, performed by Nicki Minaj and Ice Spice, won, when it was actually Killer Mike for Scientists and Engineers. This was especially awful, as this would have been Nicki Minaj's first Grammy win, something fans have been lobbying for years. Nicki has been nominated 12 times since 2011, but has never taken anything home. It was an unfortunate mistake that was quickly fixed, but not before multiple fans grabbed screenshots of the tweet.
They announced on Twitter, and this is their Twitter, that Barbie World, Nicki Minaj and Ice Spice just won Best Rap Song. Then they gonna say the Grammys official account mistakenly announced Barbie World as the Best Rap Song winner instead of Scientists and Engineers. What the hell?
Miley Cyrus has finally won a Grammy. It's about time. She won for her track Flowers in the Best Pop Solo Performance category. Flowers spent 38 weeks at the top of the Billboard Adult Contemporary chart, making it the longest-running #1 hit in the chart's history. The hook of the song and just the message in general had quite a chokehold over TikTok when it first came out. My point is, the song was popular. Everybody was singing it, just not last night during Miley's performance, leading to an awkward moment where Cyrus called out the silent crowd saying, "Why are you acting like you don't know this song?" Which is fair, the song is super fun, and pretty soon after, lots of people were up and dancing. Miley continued to bring the energy after she sang, started to cry, but then remembered, "I just won my first Grammy." No one was silent after that. She also received the Grammy for the Record of the Year, also for Flowers. Bebe Rexha was nominated this year with David Guetta in the Pop Dance Recording category for their collab One in a Million. Bebe is known on her own for party anthems like Me, Myself, and I and In the Name of Love, but did you know about her extensive opera training? If you didn't, you probably found out last night in the middle of her red carpet interview with Laverne Cox. The pair started out with the average red carpet talking points, the songs, and the glam, but towards the end of the interview, Laverne brought up a past time the pair had met when Bebe revealed she wanted people to get to know the real her. She also brought up the fact that Bebe is a talented opera singer, asking her to share something about herself singing if she wants. And she did! The two of them were having a lot of fun, but for the viewers at home and on the side of the screen, there was a bit of confusion as to why a high C was suddenly being heard. Plus, singing with no music, unprepared, is always an awkward experience. Although, if this were going to happen on any red carpet, it would be the Grammys. Just a few days ago, UMG Studios announced that it would be pulling all of their artists' music from the popular social media app TikTok, prompting disappointments from fans worldwide. This would include songs from people like Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, Harry Styles, and Drake. UMG announced that the reasoning for that was TikTok wasn't providing adequate compensation for the use of the music. This year's host, Trevor Noah, he did not shy away from the situation. He called it out, saying, "TikTok, shame on you for ripping off all these artists. That's Spotify's job." Spotify was minding their business, but I guess no one is safe. Spotify did have a similar controversy a few years ago, but there is a new policy being put in place this year that no one is a fan of. The change is that if an artist receives less than 1,000 streams, they won't be compensated at all. For reference, Spotify pays artists about 0.003 to 0.005 of a cent per stream. That's only about $3 for 999 streams. Maybe they did deserve the call out. SZA won her 4th Grammy yesterday for her song Snooze. It was in the Best R&B category, but she was the most nominated artist for the evening with 9 nominations. Longtime friend Lizzo got to announce the R&B win, and it was met with plenty of excitement from the audience, only SZA was nowhere to be found. She took so long to come out on stage that people started looking for her. It only took about 20 seconds for her to come out on stage, but on a stage and screen as big as the Grammys, that feels like an eternity. SZA did explain her absence during her acceptance speech. She was in the middle of a costume change and had to do a, I'm assuming, celebration shot. Kacey Musgraves was nominated in 2 categories last night, Best Country Song and Best Country Duo/Group Performance, for the song I Remember Everything, winning the latter. She had the opportunity to present an award this year. Unfortunately, the new winner almost didn't hear their name. Kacey was standing so far back from the mic that the audience and at-home viewers had to strain to hear her. She did correct her mistake in time to announce the winner, eventually moving further forwards to actually announce the name. There was a bit of awkward silence as everyone tried to hear exactly what was going on beforehand though. Another awkward red carpet moment came from actor and singer Michael Trotter. He revealed in an interview that he had been pretty worried because he thought his wife, singer Tanya Trotter, was going to divorce him before their Grammy nomination. As an interviewer, I wouldn't know what to do with that if I received that info, but they handled it well. The pair is still together under the name War and Treaty and were nominated for their collaboration Lover's Game in the Best New Artist category. They received 2 nominations for the evening but did not go home with either, unfortunately. Not everyone loves audience participation, even some of the biggest artists on the planet. During Fantasia's Tina Turner tribute, eagle-eyed fans spotted Beyonce slightly hiding under her hat, not making eye contact when Fantasia was looking for a dance partner. The performance is a lot of fun and packed full of energy, so I can understand Beyonce maybe wanting to sit back and enjoy watching instead of being a part of the piece. Beyonce was not nominated for any Grammys this year. She did attend though with her daughter Blue Ivy to support her husband Jay-Z, who was receiving the Dr. Dre Global Impact Award. Beyonce has received 88 nominations and 32 wins over the years, making her the artist with the most Grammy awards, yet never an album of the year, which actually led to another awkward moment. Not necessarily awkward for the audience, and more awkward for the Grammys. During Jay-Z's acceptance speech for the Impact Award, he used part of his time to call out the award show for snubbing his wife in the Best Album category. He said, "I don't want to embarrass this young lady, but she has more Grammys than anyone and never won Album of the Year. Even by your own metric, that does not work. Think about that. Most Grammys, never won Album of the Year. That doesn't work." And he's right. Beyonce has created some of the best music and pop culture moments of our generation, and she's never won in that category? That's kind of weird. This isn't the first time Jay-Z has stood up to the Grammys. In 1998, he boycotted the Grammys over rapper DMX's lack of nominations. Probably the most awkward moment of all happened after someone left the Grammy stage. Rapper Killer Mike won 3 Grammys last night for Best Rap Song, Best Rap Performance, and Best Rap Album for his 2023 album, Michael. However, what should have been a celebratory evening turned sour when he was seen leaving the event in handcuffs. A social media post from the LAPD said the reason the rapper was taken into custody was because he got into a physical altercation that occurred at the 700 block of Chick Hearn Court. Allegedly, he got physical with a security guard that was not moving fast enough for Killer Mike's liking. No other details have been released yet.
Starting off our list, we have how Joe Coy was described as the worst host ever. Now, Joe Coy is supposed to be a comedian, which means he's supposed to be funny, but he had the crowd pity laughing because his bits turned into more of a monologue, and people were less than impressed. He claimed he only got the gig 10 days before the event, so if they wanted him to be a perfect host, they should just shut up. Isn't it your whole job to be able to make and write jokes that are funny? No one expects perfection, but it could have at least been polished. Fans were blasting him on social media about his comments on Robert De Niro as well, because Joe said that he was sorry that he was a fan of his. And the fact that Robert De Niro got his 29-year-old girlfriend pregnant was his best performance yet, considering he's 80. While it did make the crowd laugh, his jokes came off as abrasive rather than funny. Which brings me to my next point. Joe Coy's jokes about Taylor Swift. One of the more abrasive jokes he made was about Taylor Swift, and we know how well those jokes go over. Well, the joke in question was that the difference between the Golden Globes and an NFL game was that there was less coverage of Taylor Swift. Some people gasped and other people chuckled, but Taylor did not appreciate it. She didn't even crack a smile. She just pursed her lips, took a sip of her drink, and glared at him with pure malice. The fact that she was just there for attendance made it worse because she was there with her friends, notably Selena Gomez, who we'll talk more about later. But he went out of his way to call her out and felt the wrath of Swift fans, which brings us to the next point, about how Joe Coy was backpedaling on the joke. After his hosting, Twitter went a little haywire. Fans were saying things like how he just walked on set and said, "I'm hosting," and no one did a background check to make sure that was a good idea. And that the audience was pity laughing because of his Barbie jokes, and it was more than obvious he missed the point of the movie. That and his monologue was just plain awful. But when fans got to the Swift jokes, he began backpedaling, trying to defend himself, saying that Taylor and Travis's relationship is cute. There just happened to be fewer cutaways. He then said, maybe she was just thirsty, maybe she just needed a drink and it was weird timing. No man, your joke wasn't funny and she didn't appreciate that. She's made it clear she was only at the games to support Travis and she isn't worried about pissing off other fans. Because she's just there for him, not for them. Following that up, we have Timothée Chalamet and Kylie Jenner's appearance. To wrap my head around the fact that Timothée Chalamet is dating Kylie Jenner is already a hard one to picture, considering he looks 14 but he's really 28 and she's 26 but she looks 30. But because he was nominated, no one was really surprised he brought his girlfriend as a date. However, in classic Hollywood fashion, they showed up late. But they were adorable all the same. They were wearing matching black sequin outfits and were displaying a good amount of PDA throughout the ceremony, and were caught being absolutely smitten with one another. While it's adorable, it caused a little bit of tension, which brings me to the next point, about Kylie's protective energy. Of course, you can't blame Kylie for being protective, but when Selena Gomez asked Timothée for a photo because you know he's a famous actor, Kylie stepped in and said no. Selena took that back to the table and shared this with Taylor Swift, who she is really good friends with like I mentioned before. But this isn't as surface level as Kylie being protective. It goes as far back as Selena's beef with Hailey Bieber. Taylor and Selena are besties and Hailey and Kylie were besties. So obviously there's still some residual hate from Kylie towards Selena because of the incident that happened over the previous years. But you'd think she'd feel safe enough in their relationship that she wouldn't mind letting him take photos with fans. The whole thing seemed to have an off vibe to it, but it was embarrassing that Kylie had her insecurities outed like that. Next on the list, we have how Barbie was practically ignored despite winning. Now, Barbie was a smash at the box office, making $155 million on opening weekend alone, but aside from the jokes, it was relatively ignored throughout the ceremony. Now, that's not saying they didn't win. Billie Eilish won an award for the best song in a movie, while 2 other songs from the movie were nominated as well, and the movie itself won a cinematic and box office achievement. But the movie was nominated for a good chunk of the categories. Considering how many memes there were, how many songs were streamed from the movies, and how it affected the entire internet algorithm, I feel like it deserved a little more recognition than what it got, and it's almost embarrassing that it didn't. To follow that, we have how Studio Ghibli beat out Disney. Now, this is a huge feat. Disney owns just about everything, and they dominate the animation business, owning Pixar, Blue Sky, as well as a few other animation studios aside from DreamWorks. So for Studio Ghibli to pull ahead and out on top is incredible. They have a Japanese art style that's truly beautiful and magical, and has been flying under the radar for years, considering they haven't released a new full-length movie in years as well, and they haven't made such a huge theater debut in decades. So for them to not only win, but beat out Disney Pixar's Elements and Disney's Wish, as well as Into the Spider-Verse, because Sony is also owned by Disney, while it's incredible that they won, the Disney name has to feel some embarrassment considering they had 3 movies in the running and still lost. Next up, we have how Killers of the Moonflower was also widely ignored. Now, this was predicted by a lot of avid movie watchers considering the nature of the film compared to everything else that was released this year. They received 7 nominations over many categories, but only won a single award. And it wasn't for the movie itself, but rather Lily Gladstone's portrayal of her character in the movie. So there has to be some embarrassment there. The fact that they lost on every front except hers. They say you can't win them all, but they didn't win any for the movie itself. But it did have a more serious subject matter compared to some of the other winners, and it wasn't received as well in theaters nor streaming services, considering it was a Paramount and Apple TV original. They were beaten out by mostly Oppenheimer, which makes sense overall, but it's still unfortunate for the movie cast and crew. Overall, fans may have enjoyed it, but like many other things, the Academy did not care for it. Second to last, we have how Timothée Chalamet was there for 1 category. Not only was he there for his role in Wonka, and was only nominated for 2 categories technically, both based on his character, but he lost in both categories as well. He and Kylie walked in there like they were big shot talk of the town just for him to lose. The least they could have done was be there on time to create less of a spectacle for themselves, since he seemed very confident he had the win. That's what happens when you get too full of yourself and your acting skills. You lose in front of your girlfriend, and the embarrassment from that was enough to take him down a notch. And last but not least, we have how the entire thing was described as lame and chaotic. Between Jo Koy's secondhand embarrassing monologue, which caused even Selena Gomez to bow and shake her head, to the lack of excitement from many attendees, it was described as rushed and unpolished, like he could have used some refining before he went on stage. People even described this year's Golden Globes overall as forgettable, and it was just a blur of talking heads and jokes that fell flat. At least this year, the champagne wasn't lukewarm like Jennifer Lawrence predicted. Out of the 81 Golden Globes, this one was ranked at a level D of entertaining. It's embarrassing for the Academy, I suppose.
Number 10. Tom Cruise. Tom is an interesting fella, there is absolutely no denying that. In his youth, he was one of Hollywood's go-to leading men, but his career and skills as an actor have slowly been going down for a long time. There are a ton of Tom Cruise moments to choose from where we could pinpoint his rage, but today we're going to talk about something that happened on the set of one of his last Mission Impossible movies. An audio clip was released of Tom yelling at several crew members with pure rage in his voice. The crew were accused of not following safety protocols that were in place at the time, being 2020, the masks and the 6 feet please. In his rant, Tom is heard swearing and screaming about the rules and how that if he wants something to happen, that it was going to happen. The rant went viral, but Cruise defended the rant rather than apologizing for it, claiming that he said what he said and that the stakes were pretty high at the time. While this may have happened at a time when Hollywood was shut down and a lot of productions were on hold, that's not an excuse to harass the people trying to make you look good. Number 9. Christian Bale. Christian is a very versatile actor, physically and skilled. He's able to shrink and grow his body seemingly at will, and he's played everything from a skinny substance addict to Batman. In 2008, Christian starred in the third film of the Terminator franchise, Terminator Salvation. While he was filming a scene, director of photography Shane Hurlbut apparently moved into Christian's line of sight. This caused Christian to snap out of character and into defense mode. There is now just an infamous audio clip of Christian yelling at Shane floating out there in the world, and to make matters worse, anyone who tried to calm Christian down were met with an equally swift verbal lashing. While the cinematographer was just checking a light to make sure that it was in the right place, doing his job, Bale made it his mission to share his intense feelings with the entire crew. When the audio leaked, he apologized for his actions and told the world to praise the crew for their incredible work. While the movie turned out okay, visually speaking, the project as a whole is remembered as one of the worst Terminator movies ever made. Number 8. Nicolas Cage. The most unhinged man in Hollywood history, one of the few people who somehow managed to star in billions of movies but has barely seen or kept a cent of it. During a press junket in 1990, Nick went on a talk show called Wogan to discuss his latest project, Wild at Heart. When the host Terry Wogan announced Cage, he entered with karate kicks, a front flip somersault, and he threw wads of cash at the audience because he was Nick Cage, man! He finally sat down, and moments before the interview truly began, Nick asked if he could just take his jacket off, get cozy. Well, he took it off, and the shirt underneath of it. If people thought that Nick was still all together, they were proven very wrong during this interview. Despite the content being relatively tame, the entire time you can see the sweat just glistening off of Nick's chest. Because, hey, guess what? Wearing a leather jacket on your bare chest is beyond uncomfortable. Sure, it might look cool until you take it off and you're just covered in a heat rash. Nick's always been a bit of a Looney Tune, but his behavior in the 1990s was peak wacko and well documented thanks to him literally being in like 12 movies at least every year. Number 7. Amanda Bynes. Amanda got her start on All That, the Nickelodeon version of Saturday Night Live. It had a stellar cast including Kenan Thompson, Drake Bell, and other people, and eventually the producer decided to offer Amanda her own series, The Amanda Bynes Show. It became one of Nickelodeon's most watched shows to date, and as she got older she was picked up by several studios to star in non-Nickelodeon projects like She's the Man and Easy A. However, Amanda took a hiatus in 2013 following a very public mental breakdown. According to Amanda, she became addicted to the devil's lettuce at a very young age, and while it wasn't an addiction at first, with more movie roles came more pressure and a need to find a new way to cope. This eventually led her to more drastic substances. In 2013, Amanda posted a series of bizarre tweets where she seemed to be insulting basically everyone that she could think of, and eventually she was arrested and placed under a psychiatric hold. She was accused of several hit-and-run incidents and was officially charged with reckless endangerment and criminal possession of of herbs and spices. Her parents then placed her under a conservatorship until 2022. Number 6. Mel Gibson. The leading man of famous films like Braveheart and the original Mad Max movie, Mel Gibson has had a pretty steady career, thanks to him also being the director of many of his films, including Braveheart. In 2006, a DUI cost him a few years off his career. According to Mel, he had been under the influence of no-no juice at the time and was just plain angry. He was pulled over because you shouldn't be in a car in that state, and he was recorded via body cam shouting anti-Semitic rants at the officers, saying things that I'm not going to repeat and that you should not Google. Following his arrest, he apologized for the harsh words, but the damage had already been done, aka the press already knew. He was thrown on the bench for a while, but as we all know, he still makes movies to this day. In fact, in recent years, he has placed a lot of the blame on the officers for illegally filming him. Gee, what's worse, a DUI or camcorder footage? Number 5. Michael Richards. Michael is best known for his character Cosmo Kramer on the legendary sitcom Seinfeld, but these days you might know him for his racist tirade at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles. In 2006, Michael was filmed dropping some very harsh comments in front of a crowd of people who just wanted to hear some jokes from Kramer. Instead, they heard Cosmo shout the N-word over and over again at a man in the crowd. He also made some pretty interesting remarks that I'm not going to repeat online or ever. The video went viral, being broadcasted on news networks across the country. Michael apologized for his actions, claiming that he was heckled by someone and that it sent him off. Throughout the tirade, many of the audience members weren't sure if he was trying to be funny or if they were his genuine thoughts, but by the end of it, it was pretty obvious that it was unscripted and uncalled for. Number 4. Steve-O. Steve was once a world-famous stuntman whose journey to sobriety is honestly inspirational. Unfortunately, in his early days of fame, Steve was known for having a sweet tooth for illegal substances. This made him an excellent guest on late-night talk shows. Host of On Too Late, Adam Carolla found out the hard way that you should never encourage Steve-O to do anything before getting on camera. During one late-night appearance in the mid-2000s, Steve is definitely on a few things. The host suggests that he's had a few adult beverages in preparation for the game, but his speech is so slurred beyond comprehension other than the B word being hurled at the audience over and over again. You know, the one that rhymes with snitch. He then begins to tell the host that he loves him, but that he will end his life right there. He then sloppily hugs Adam before trying to flip his chair with him inside of it. His issue with substances was very well documented throughout the years, but this late night appearance will always live rent-free in my skull. Thankfully, as I mentioned earlier, he did win his battle with substance and is currently 15 years sober, now spending most of his time running a podcast with Adam. I have a lot of respect for this dude. He went from, I'm Steve-O, and this is a scorpion pit, and now he's like, and now let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Audible. Number 3. Britney Spears. Britney began her downward spiral in 2007 after her divorce from Kevin Federline. She not only shaved her head, but she went on a rage-fueled rampage across the city, taking down anyone in her path. After being swarmed by photographers at a gas station in LA, she grabbed an umbrella and just swung it over and over again, and especially at one of the cars, attempting to smash its window. She also hurled just so many swear words at basically anyone and everyone with a camera, eventually launching her umbrella towards the crowd. This was the main incident that landed her in a psychiatric hold. Surprise, surprise! She was placed under conservatorship, which she was eventually released from, but she's been making headlines again recently for some very odd behavior on TikTok, but we'll leave that for another list. Number 2. Ye West. Kanye was slowly going mad in the eyes of the public way back in 2010. As the years went by, he made more and more appearances on TV, but it wasn't until 2018 where his political beliefs got him heated on Jimmy Kimmel Live. When Jimmy asked Kanye how he felt about the response to his decree that he was all for the president at the time, Donald Trump, he defended his statements by claiming that he didn't have to conform to some united mindset and that he was a little bit upset at all the backlash, but that a part of him kinda liked the hate. He then suggested that the world was in a simulation and claimed that we were just all unpaid actors. For basically 20 minutes, he just went off about metaphors, the concept of love, and he compared himself to the Son of God. This interview was only a short time after his anti-Semitic tweets were circulating the internet. Ye even made a joke about the anxiety of asking his publicist to appear on the show. He was fairly calm in his delivery of his opinions, but he made sure that his opinions were known. Number 1. Charlie Sheen. Charlie rose to fame in the early 80s after starring in a slew of cult classics flicks like Red Dawn, The Boy Next Door, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and a little brief but memorable cameo. He fell into the mainstream, however, in 2003 when he started playing the character Charlie Harper in the sitcom 2.5 Men. So good that even just mentioning it got the theme song stuck in your head. However, in 2009, he was arrested for attempting to harm his wife Brooke Mueller on several occasions. At the time of the arrest, both parties had been indulging in adult beverages, with Sheen becoming enraged beyond control. Following this, a restraining order was placed, prohibiting Sheen from being within 100 feet of both Brooke and their children. Despite all the controversy, Charlie was later seen doing press for an upcoming movie on The Today Show when the interviewer asked Charlie what was behind his sudden behavior, claiming that he was being perceived as angry and erratic. But Sheen responded with, "Oh, no, I'm just passionate. Okay, I'm a passionate man," before launching into a no snow fueled tirade. He claimed his brain functioned within a separate realm to ours, and Charlie's interview was defensive to say the least, with his energy just being weird and aggressive the entire time. Even since then, Charlie has maintained this weird air of arrogance, like he's still got his head jammed right up his backside. He still thinks he's the king of TV and winning, when in reality, this is probably the first time you've heard about him in a while. Number 10. Sit better. The Duchess of Sussex accompanied her new hubby Harry to the Queen's Young Leaders Awards, which honors youngsters from across the Commonwealth. The event was streamed on the royal family's Facebook page, meaning that the entire world could see this event live. But one royal fan was shocked by something that she spotted, which was the way that Meghan was sitting. But not just sitting, she's sitting with her legs crossed. While this just seems like Meghan getting comfortable to, most people, the proper way to sit in the royal family is to sit with knees touching and the hands on the knees. Instead, she just crossed her legs, and someone online was very quick to point it out. Not only was this disrespectful in general, but she was photographed sitting next to the Queen, literally dissing the woman right to her face. Now, I'm not big into the royal family, but I've been told this is very rude in their eyes, so bad Meghan. Number 9. Rude to royal staff. According to former employees that were unfortunate enough to work for Meghan while still living with the royal family, Meghan had a bit of a temper, especially when it came to the people who make her life easier. According to one caterer, Meghan and himself got into a heated debate after her vegan food was being delivered to her wedding. Meghan was in the middle of tasting a couple of dishes for the big day when she suddenly became very upset. According to the royal expert Katie Nicole, she was told by a source that Meghan tasted an egg in the dish that led to a very tense exchange. According to the source, the Queen actually had to calm Meghan down and told her that they did not speak to people that way in this family. The moment was recounted in the book The New Royals. Many behind-the-scenes secrets were revealed, with many examples of Meghan's misdeeds being put on paper for the rest of eternity. Number 8. Videographer Diva. An industry videographer who worked closely with Meghan Markle before she met the prince revealed that she was already called princess in her Hollywood days for her difficult and demanding behavior on set. According to the cameraman, Meghan was known for bringing large entourages on set with her and laid down a strict set of rules for everyone involved with the production. The biggest was do not shoot her feet. Big no-no. Her feet became a hot topic of conversation after she took off her shoes during a royal tour in New Zealand in 2018, revealing what many thought was a scar from a bunion removal operation. It became apparent to the cameraman and the rest of the crew that she despised her own feet. Another man, a photographer, backed this story up by recounting a photo shoot that took place in 2015. Meghan was reportedly intense and turned up with an entourage of 12 people strong. The photographer, who wished to remain anonymous, said that they were warned about Meghan's behavior. Apparently, she showed up in disguise all of the time, and from the moment that she would enter the set, her attitude and demeanor was just plain rude. Number 7. Greeting mourners. The Duchess of Sussex, say that 10 times fast, was greeting mourners stationed outside of Windsor Castle on September 10th with her husband Prince Harry and the Prince and Princess of Wales when the incident unfolded. In footage that was wildly shared to Twitter, aka X, Meghan could be seen holding up a bunch of pink roses and talking to the crowd when an aide speaks to her from behind. The Duchess can be seen whirling around quickly with what many people claim to be an extremely annoyed face. Could just be how it sits, but she did look pretty angry. Meghan spoke to the aide for a moment, pointing and waggling about, when she snapped back, smiles, and nods. While of course there was never any word on what exactly was said or why it was said in such a snappy way, there might be a little bit of insight on that. According to one freelance journalist who claimed to be there, shed some light on the conversation that took place. Apparently Apparently, Meghan just didn't want to hand her flowers over to the aide, simple as that, but she snapped in a very inappropriate setting, so maybe keep your composure next time. Number 6. Missing the king's coronation. When Charles was turned into a king earlier this year, many fans of the royal family were curious to see what the Duke and Duchess would do. Well, it turns out that while both Harry and Meghan were invited to the event, Meghan decided that she didn't like the king's reaction to her wishing to attend. After an interview that took place on Oprah in 2021, the royal family had been living on very thin ice. The king did not appreciate all of the dirty laundry being aired out for the world to see. Not to mention the fact that the couple were in the process of creating a Netflix documentary. While their PR team has claimed that the idea of Meghan actually snubbing the king is ludicrous, the proof was right there. Not only were there letters that proved that there was at least a conversation that took place, but Meghan not attending the event was a massive red flag. One of Meghan's biggest issues with the situation was that the invitation sent to them never included the children. Number 5. The Prince William altercation. So it turns out that these two are the original snubbers of this couple, being one of the several reasons that they decided to leave the royal family in the first place. According to their book, Meghan and Harry were deeply unhappy in their last year and discussed wanting something to change with the Queen and Prince Charles, who is now the king. This was before they took their infamous trip to Canada, where they officially started plotting their exit from Britain. According to the book, William was furious with his brother's decision, especially the way that he was handling things. So during the little time that they continued to live in Britain, William and Kate were basically ignoring them at every single moment on every single day. Meghan was doing the exact same thing, but I don't know, it's kind of justified. Snubbing them on every carpet in the house. The most notable snub that took place on camera, however, is when the four of them all met at the gates of Windsor Castle, where Meghan and Kate have the briefest exchange, but it's just filled with icy glares and just anger before they snap back into photo mode. We're not 100% sure what happened behind the scenes there, but Meghan really does not like these people. Number 4. Judge Judy. Now I know what you're thinking, what in the name of all that is good in this world does Judge Judy have to do with the royal family? Well, let me tell you. When Harry released the memoir Spare, Judge Judy took to the talk show Good Morning Britain to express her hatred for the piece, claiming that if she were in a similar situation as the Queen at the time, she'd also be very furious. She went on to say that the idea of writing a book that shares intimate details to the public that they do not need to know is ludicrous, and anyone with a brain would see it's disingenuous. Meghan was asked to weigh in on Judy's harsh words, but during a phone call with her PR team, she called Judge Judy a hack and told her to get a life. At least that's what the PR team said. I've never spoken to Meghan, so who knows? Number 3. Documentary. Netflix finally released all 6 episodes of the Harry and Meghan documentary, which was a documentary showcasing their lives as royals and the secrets that they keep. The series sparked massive amounts of backlash and controversy though, the main gripe being that the information they are sharing with the audience is info that they either already knew or stuff that just was not that interesting. The internet flooded with hate for this couple, especially towards Meghan Markle. The documentary only made her look like more of a diva than she had already been reported to be. The documentary was just an excuse to get hers and Harry's faces on Netflix. She's already been in several projects, but it's not enough. Clips shown on the series showcase her rude behavior time and time again. While the documentary was meant to be a way to paint the ex-royals in a new light, it ended up making them look like massive jerks. Number 2. Spotify. Only a few months after announcing their exit from the royal family, Meghan Markle announced that herself and Harry had signed a multi-year deal with Spotify to make a podcast. They claimed the show was designed to help build a community through shared experiences, narratives, and values. Their announcement did not include how much the couple was gonna get paid though, which ended up being a modest $20 million. It's just your average everyday paycheck, you know, I get 21 every 2 weeks here. However, from the moment this thing kicked off the ground, Spotify had grown reportedly frustrated with the couple's content and lack of productivity. According to the executives at Spotify, the couple were taking way too long to actually build up a team to make their episodes. There wasn't even a real structure to how things were going to be recorded. 6 months later, they produced one 33-minute holiday special. 6 months for 33 minutes, way to go. Many people started to question what was going on behind the scenes. In that 33 minutes, guests like Elton John, Deepak Chopra, Stacey Abrams, and a few others popped up to say hello, so why not just sit down with each and every one of those people for an hour straight? That's a podcast right there, so many people do it. Nothing came after this episode for almost an entire year, but eventually they hired an audio lead. Several people denied her requests to join join the podcasts like Taylor Swift, but the list is endless. Despite releasing regular episodes, the team posted on social media claiming all credit should go to the underpaid and undervalued producers. Apparently Meghan was very rude behind the scenes and extremely demanding. Shocker. Spotify eventually decided to cancel her show for a few reasons, but mainly it was because they spent a year of their deal doing absolutely nothing. Despite the success that the show eventually received, Meghan got canned for good, and some tells me that her attitude had a lot to do with it. And at number 1, Frogmore Cottage. The Duke and Duchess have lost their home base in the UK, Frogmore Cottage, which was the last home available to them. The cottage sits on 33 acres of land and was a regular vacation spot for the couple. But since having their home taken away, many rumors have circulated claiming that this might have been a result of some kind of behind-the-scenes feud. According to an insider close to Meghan, the couple were actually involved in a bit of a dramatic situation with the groundskeeper of the property. The specifics were never divulged, but the information released says that it was enough for the property to be taken back and for their deed to just be shredded. Many see this as justice being served. Meghan was under the assumption that because she's royalty she can speak to anyone any way she wants. Well, hey, next time be nicer to the guy who holds the keys to your house. Number 10. Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. The relationship between these two was long, rocky, and just full of drama. Kanye and Kim were together for 8 years before Kanye decided to be a maniac and post every single thought in his tiny little head on the internet. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today we are discussing a verbal spat filmed by a professional camera for her show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Kanye was voicing his opinions on Kim's upcoming appearance at the Met Gala. He makes comments basically saying that the outfit was just too revealing and that it physically upset him in his soul as a father of almost 4 kids to see his wife prepared to walk the red carpet in basically nothing. Kim snaps back by calling Kanye out as he was completely fine with the outfit the night before when she was having a full-blown panic attack about wearing it in the first place. There is some back and forth, and while this argument is small, it showcases the struggle that these two were actually having behind the scenes. This man was literally trying to tell Kim Kardashian what she can and can't wear. And had that worked out for you, Mr. Yee? Number 9. Kendall Jenner and Bad Bunny. Earlier this year, the musician known as Bad Bunny was spotted on a night out with his boo-boo, Kendall, one of the youngest of the Kardashian clan. The two were seen together having a tiff at a Lakers game of all places. The two were sitting courtside wearing the skin of their enemies on their boots, aka snakeskin, and while the game was mostly filled with smiles and joy, there was a moment before the game got too heated where it looked like the couple may not be as close as we thought. In a short clip taken from the game, Bad Bunny leans in close to Kendall and whispers something that makes her face go from, "Ooh, I love basketball," to, "This is not the time or place." Now, at first the speculation was that there was an uncomfortable question asked and they moved on, but the way that Bunny's mouth is shaped is making many people speculate that he may have just been breathing and Kendall was getting a whiff of it. The rest of the game was fine and they had a good time, but their faces are never close to each other again. Coincidence? I think not. Number 8. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. Despite only being back together for like maybe 2 years, these two have actually been caught in a tiff the most out of everyone on this list, and I did include Kim Kardashian. So there is a ton of footage from red carpet events and awards where the couple seemed to be having heated arguments. While attending the premiere for J-Lo's movie The Mother, the couple were photographed and filmed on the red carpet having a very heated discussion that seemed like a fight. As the moment cameras flashed, they popped back into smile mode. However, according to a lip reading expert, these two almost never fight, but they have the most sour faces when they're trying to kid around. The expert broke down this specific exchange, claiming that Jen simply asked Ben how she looked and he responded with, "You look fine." The rest of the argument was just them being cute, with Ben constantly making sure that she was comfortable and asking her if she wanted him to be closer, to which she said yes please. This is an example of a couple who seem to be mad on camera, but it turns out they're just both weirdos with really expressive faces. Number 7. Bradley Cooper and Irana Shayk. Bradley Cooper and Irana were a powerhouse couple in Hollywood. They dated for nearly 4 years before calling it quits in 2019. However, the two created many memories which fans fondly remember even today, and one of the most memorable was at a tennis tournament. Paparazzi caught what looked like a super awkward argument between Bradley Cooper and his model girlfriend Irana at the 2016 Wimbledon men's final. The video footage from that day shows Bradley whispering into his girlfriend's ear while she appears to cry and turn her head away from him. She appeared to be dabbing tears out of her eyes and then crossed her arms and refused to look at him. In this video, he then went back to watching the tennis game as she just sat there in silence beside him. Awkward! While it is not clear what the two were actually fighting about, it's obvious that Arana is not having a great day. Some suggested that the couple were fighting over his ex-girlfriend Suki Waterhouse. According to TMX, the situation was caused by severe pollen allergies, but that is the oldest excuse in the book. I get pollen allergies every time I watch the end of Coco. Number 6, Shia LaBeouf and Maya Goth. As Entertainment Tonight revealed, cameras caught the couple on video having a huge fight in July 2015 in, I'm gonna butcher this horribly, in Tübingen, Germany. The disturbing footage shows LaBeouf walking away from the argument and getting into a car with some locals, telling them that he didn't want to touch a woman, he didn't want to hit anybody, but he was being pushed. After Goth attempts to speak to him again, he can be heard saying once again that he doesn't want to touch anyone, and that it was these types of situations that made people violent. The argument was never actually specified, and many have been left wondering what specifically caused this tiff. Shia is a very passionate man, and that can cause him to fly off the rails a lot. It could have been anything that set him off. Regardless of what happened, the couple quickly worked out their differences, and Shia has called the moment embarrassing and uncharacteristic. They're still married to this day, but with Shia's reputation, who knows how long that's gonna last. Number 5. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. This was a brutal snub that was caught live on TV. The Prince and Meghan were watching a Lakers game from a corporate box. They were joined by other A-listers that night like Adam Sandler and Kim Kardashian. Now, this fight, snub slash situation type deal took place when the infamous kiss cam made its way up to Meghan and Harry's skybox. Now, it takes a moment for them to realize what's going on. When Harry goes in for a little smoochie, Meghan rejects him and then laughs the whole thing off. Harry is visibly confused before the cameras cut to the next couple. This awkward moment made many people question why Meghan's instinctual reaction was to giggle and push him away. Now, we understand not wanting to do any PDA on camera, but it's the kiss cam. You gotta do it, it's the law. Number 4, Simon Cowell and Lauren Silverman. Simon and Lauren have been together for 8 years, and for the most part things seem to be okay. But in a heated exchange between himself and his ex, things were very different. Last year the couple were spotted walking their dog with their son Eric, and at the time of photographing, Lauren was actually pregnant. At one point the person photographing caught Simon walking in front of her in frustration. He then stopped and turned to say something to her with a face like thunder, according to the photographer. Some gestures are made before Simon gets on his phone in frustration. Now, they all continue to walk in the same direction, but not together, with Simon being seen as an angry man throughout the entire exchange. A spokesperson for Simon denied there ever being an altercation of any kind, but it's clear from the photos that were taken that something is not okay with these two. Number 3, Kim Kardashian and Chris Humphries. Kim Kardashian said she absolutely thinks she owes her ex-husband Chris an apology for how she handled their breakup. Kim opened up about her short-lived marriage to the former NBA player during part of one of her family's wide-ranging reunion specials with TV host Andy Cohen. It reflected on 20 seasons of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. The show ended after 14 years on air. During the conversation, Kim admitted that she felt pressured to go ahead with her wedding to Humphries in 2011 because they filmed it for Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and she didn't want to be known as one of those runaway brides forever, even though she had cold feet and just didn't want to do it in the first place. The couple were filmed on Keeping Up with the Kardashians several times, having verbal altercations, so it's no surprise that this marriage ended so quickly. I think the more shocking thing is that it happened in the first place. Nobody on the crew thought it was a little bit weird that the people fighting all the time were getting married. Who am I kidding? It was probably their favorite thing to film. Number 2, Kirsten Dunst and Garrett Hedlund. Even though this public fight was embarrassing, it seemed like the couple were able to shrug it off relatively quickly. I of course refer to the epic battle that took place between Kirsten and her on-the-road co-star Garrett Hedlund, who she had just recently started seeing. Although the actors had plenty in common and things started going well initially, cameras caught them having a major argument on their way to a movie theater, which was so intense that it looked like it was about much more than choosing Oppenheimer or Barbie. It appeared that something had sparked a pretty big fight as the pair continued to hurl insults at each other the entire way there. Whatever happened in the car that day, it was probably just a petty argument because they ended up dating for 4 more years. But sadly, like most good things in the world, the relationship came to an end in April in 2016. And at number 1, Beyonce and Jay-Z. Taking the top spot on this list was a 3-way altercation that actually didn't even involve Beyonce. Following the Met Gala in 2014 in an elevator created by fate itself, Jay-Z and his wife Beyonce and his sister-in-law Solange were caught on camera having a time and a half. The footage showed Solange getting right up into Jay-Z's face and kicking as the security team holds her back. During the altercation, Beyonce is actually seen standing with her arms crossed, all calm and collected, before she just starts picking things up that are falling from her sister's bag. Jay never swings or lays a hand on anyone, he simply tries to block her attacks, but he is no Cobra Kai, so his blocks didn't really work. Eventually, Beyonce steps between the two and diffused the situation. Now, it's never been confirmed by anyone what the fight was about. According to Solange, Jay said something inappropriate that set her off, as she's very protective of her sister. Now, in a joint statement from the three, they said that the incident was in the past. They are a family at the end of the day with their own drama. Anyone watching with close kids or parents definitely knows what I'm talking about. Hi, Mom! Number 10. Static electricity. I'll mention this a few times throughout this list because it needs to be said. Taylor's live shows are an extravagant and joyous occasion that are filled with lots of costume changes. During a performance in Glendale, Arizona, strands of Taylor's long blonde hair began to stand up. The situation was caused by constant changes in fabric, creating a field of static electricity. Her hair stayed up long enough for meme after meme to be created and shared with the world. Many fans compared the look to the doll from Rugrats, Cynthia, and the penguin played by Robin Williams in Happy Feet, Lovelace. Taylor found the memes to be pretty funny, even claiming that the hairstyle should become a regular thing. Regardless of why it happened, this will be an Eras Tour moment fans will never forget. Number 9. Cincinnati Sprint. Taylor loves to put on a good show with pyrotechnics, lots of dancing, and of course some pretty smooth entrances and exits. During one show in Cincinnati, Taylor ended a song and stood in place waiting for a trap door to open and slowly lower her into the ground. After a moment, nothing happens. She stomps in an attempt to activate it, but when it's clear that the door is malfunctioning, she makes a run for the back, sprinting past her background dancers. The sprint wasn't a move of embarrassment, but rather Taylor trying to keep the flow of the show going. A costume change was planned underneath the stage that quickly had to shift backstage instead. The sprint was caught by several fans in the crowd, with one Swiftie posting the moment on TikTok and adding that run sound effect to it. It's so much fun. Taylor was acting very quickly, and at least she made an effort. So many celebs would have probably just stomped their feet harder and harder until they fell down the shaft like that kid from Willy Wonka. Number 8. Yummy Buggy. During her stop in Chicago, Miss Swift was introducing her band's latest member, pianist Karina De Piano. And yes, that is her real last name. She suddenly began violently coughing and turned away from the crowd. After a moment, she catches her breath and tells the audience everything is fine, she just swallowed a bug. The audience cackled at the top of their lungs as they watched Taylor struggle to get rid of her unwanted hitchhiker. After a moment, she swallowed the bug, or it vanished because she stopped coughing and said, yum. A tasty treat for Taylor, I guess. She made light of the situation by asking the crowd if anyone had actually seen what just happened, before joking that it will more than likely happen again. That's the problem with outside venues. Free concert for bugs. Who's gonna check if they have tickets? Little tiny bug police? I don't think so. Number 7. Security! This time it was Taylor's staff that was causing the issue. During her show in Philadelphia, there appeared to be some problems in the audience. The security team was constantly shoving the crowd back from the stage area, and I do mean shoving, like physically trying to move them. Taylor spotted a security team dragging one fan out of the crowd and telling them to let her go as she wasn't doing anything wrong. While the video capture didn't really make it clear what happened, a fan who was in attendance explained the situation on Twitter. The security team had grown increasingly aggressive as the night went on, and a woman and her friends started dancing and getting rowdy. You know, normal things people do in the pit at a concert. But the security team did not like that. They had enough and escorted the woman and her friends away from the venue, telling them they could return the next night. So, why kick them out? They just went back the next day and laid low. Next time, either kick them out or don't, security guy. Number 6, sweep the leg. Now, there have been a handful of times where celebrities fall on stage, and Swift has fallen a handful of times due to weather or just tripping on her own feet. But when she was knocked off her feet by one of her background dancers, it was certainly shocking. She was walking down a platform at one of her concerts while a dancer held her hand as part of the routine. The dancer then fell to the ground and delivered a helicopter ninja kick to Taylor's legs, literally sweeping her off her feet. The move was clearly an accident, and the dancer helped her get back to her feet, but rather than berate the dancer, Taylor shakes it off and continues the show. Get it? Shake it off. I'm a freaking genius. Number 5. the janitor cart. There was a massive theory going around the internet as Taylor began her Eras tour. People were wondering how it was possible for her to get around the venue when there were crazed fans literally around every corner. Not to mention, in order to get to the stage of most outdoor venues, you have to be exposed to the public even for a brief moment. But there was one common theme at each of her shows. The event staff were always seen pushing some tall janitor cart back and forth before the show would begin. Now, the first red flag was that the people pushing this thing had earbuds in their heads and they were wearing black t-shirts, not janitor outfits. Eventually, a fan was able to get the right angle and captured the moment that Taylor steps out of the cart backstage. Not only did this confirm the rumor, but Taylor's secret vehicle had been outed to the world. Now, I won't be attending the concert because I'm not rich, but for those of you who are attending, please keep an eye out for two people in black t-shirts pushing the coffin or something down the hall. I don't know what they'll do. Number 4. Wet works. Okay, I know these are supposed to be worst moments at this tour, but this is just kind of impressive. During a show in Massachusetts, Taylor performed her entire set, 40+ songs in a rainstorm, something that she apparently does all the time. Photos and videos from the concert show Taylor splashing around on stage, trying to clear off a piano as rain continues to fall on it, and overall making light of what could have been a very rough situation. In fact, only a few weeks prior to this concert, many fans were forced to shelter in place for over 4 hours due to a severe storm over top of the arena. Despite being drenched in rain, she continued with her costume changes, dance choreography, and theatrics during the almost 4-hour show. Somehow this woman is able to take what would normally force people to leave a show and turn it into a fun time. Number 3. Dive, dive, dive! Taylor knows how to put on a good show, and this next entry just proves that sentence. During one of her first shows of the Era Tour in Glendale, Arizona, Taylor stood in front of her fans as a small hole opened in the stage. She jumped in and a masterpiece in LED technology began to play. Waves flowed across the stage as a bird's eye view showed her swimming from one end of the stage to the other. The sequence ended with a large wave hitting the back of the stage, with Taylor appearing underneath a cloud in a new outfit as the waves vanished. Thankfully, this worked out on stage, as it's been reported that during the rehearsals for the show, Taylor missed her mark a couple times ever so slightly and wound up belly flopping into the pool, which would have made for a very different show. Number 2. Ticketmaster. Many fans were excited when Taylor first announced her world tour, so much so that they were waiting in virtual queues for hours on end, just waiting for those tickets to become available. The tickets went on sale in November 2022, but there was a problem. The website Ticketmaster received so many orders at one time that the entire site crashed. The tickets were pre-sold and advertised as just for fans, while there was a separate general ticket that was supposed to be available soon after. Instead, the site was riddled with bugs and errors, causing sales to either not go through or for the site to just crash entirely on its users. Not to mention, the general ticket suddenly became unavailable only hours after being added as an option. The setback caused massive issues with fans who were left trying to figure out a new way to see Tay-Tay. The issue was eventually fixed, but the moment Taylor's fans broke the internet will go down in history. Number 1. Skipping Canada. It's no breaking news that the original plan for Taylor was to skip Canada entirely during her Eras tour, with many fans calling the move one of the biggest mistakes of her career. Hundreds of thousands of Canadian Swifties looked to Twitter to express their frustrations. The comments, of course, came after she had already begun her tour, but seemed to make a major impact on Taylor. A couple of weeks ago, Taylor did a complete 180 and added several shows in cities across Canada. She decided to make the move after receiving messages from so many fans, not fueled with hate, but with sadness. Taylor made the announcement on Instagram Live, sharing that she will be adding quite a few stops in Canada, but will unfortunately not be visiting Vancouver. Yeah, she's worried that like Seth Rogen or someone might pop up in the crowd. You know that man is a Swiftie for sure.